Deforestation is a global crisis that's having a huge impact on the planet. Each year between 3.5 and 7 billion trees are cut down, and 37% of this is for timber. Wood can be a sustainable resource if farmed responsibly. Softwood trees like pine take around 35 years to reach maturity, whereas hardwood trees such as oak take around 50. County Collectibles is a family-run antiques and furniture business that makes a conscious effort to be as sustainable as possible.
Well, we've got a web-based retail business. We specialise mainly in reproduction and antique furniture, restoration, and we also manufacture farmhouse tables and other bits and bobs of furniture at people's request out of recycled and sustainable sources. When we look for items, the main source tends to be online. eBay, we've got Gumtree, there's Pre-Loved, there's various other websites. When you buy second-hand furniture, you've got to look at it from a few perspectives. Number one, you've got to look at it. Does it fit the purpose that I want? Yes or no? If it does, that's great. If it doesn't, can I make it fit the purpose with not a lot of work? Secondly, is the condition of it? Is it complete? Is it perfect? That's great. Does it need a polish? That's great. If it needs a bit of more reconstruction work, am I capable of it? If I am, buy it. If not, pass on it. If people looked at it with those objectives rather than, oh my God, it's got a single mark on it, I'm not having it, more people would have older quality stuff. It stops things going to the tip. If everything goes to the tip, to landfill, even with some of the councils nowadays being very proactive, they mulch things down, they chop things up and they repurpose it into wood chippings or whatever, it still seems to be a waste. Some items of furniture we've got one in the workshop at the moment, which is a glorious old haberdashery counter, 20 glazed drawers, straight out of a ladies' dress shop in London, and they've decided to white gloss it, which was very interesting, over the original oak. It didn't cost a lot. It's very labour intensive as regards to sanding it down, stripping it, but when it's done, it will be a fine piece of furniture and it'll be brought back to its former glory. If we hadn't have bought it, I think very, very soon the owners would have just disposed of it, which would probably mean it gone to the tip and it'd be wasted. Another good source of information, again, what's selling, how the market is, and also to look for certain pieces are antiques fairs. It's not necessarily the most ideal place to buy items because they tend to be overpriced because they're already at retail value. But it gives you an idea of what's on the market and what trends are with colours and finishes. With antiques fairs, you tend to see a lot of bits of furniture that have been refurbished and done to varying degrees of quality, in all honesty. But it's good to see because several of the pieces of furniture that you see could quite easily have gone the same way as that cabinet that we've bought may well have ended up. It could have gone straight to the tip, which is a shame. It's a waste. Our second part of the business is more of a hands-on side of things. We manufacture farmhouse tables, benches, sideboards, basically anything the customer asks for. The farmhouse tables consist of turned legs. We've got a guy in back end of Barnsley who turns the legs for us. He uses FSC compliant timber. We source the table rail frame timber locally from us. Again, it's FSC, and all the tabletops are currently, they're made from various pieces of reclaimed timber as timber comes available. But what we're currently doing is using the bases of old shipping containers. These particular planks that we get are from cases that contained mechanical parts. They start off they're made in the States, so they've already got, unfortunately, a stack of air miles on them almost. But they're here. If they weren't recycled, they'd definitely get burnt. That would have been it. But they're a good size. The packing crates come in, which allow the planks to be a minimum of 12 foot being US size, long, and 11 3/4 inches wide and 1.5 inches thick. So they are sizable planks. The downside is because they're used, they have nail holes, faults, marks, blemishes. So what you have to do is that it's quite labour intensive. Initially you have to run them all through the planer, make sure they're all denailed, and then they're ready to commence building the tabletop. As we do plane them, we tend to take roughly about 4 or 5 passes per plank through the planer, and each pass it takes between half a millimetre and a millimetre off. So we do end up with quite a sizable waste product as regards to wood shavings from the planer. We have done a couple of 9-foot tabletops planks recently, and they got 4 planks on each. They produced half a ton bag of wood shavings, not in weight but in cubic volume. Where we are for our industrial unit, we are in the grounds of a working farm, and part of the owner's passion is horses. They keep horses in their own stables, and we give them all the shavings which go under the bedding and within the bedding, the straw, the hay, and that soaks up what it needs to soak up. We try and make sure that every ounce of it is utilised, and the final pieces that we can't dispose of in a recycling way, we tend to use spacers between the planks for dry storing them, to dry them out, and ultimately they go in our own wood burner at home, which gives us a heating source without having to use electricity or gas.
County Collectibles is a great example of a business that is aiming to run as sustainably as possible. But do other businesses have the same thought process?
The people's interest in the tropical rainforests, this has become a sort of a real point of interest, more over the last 5 years and perhaps during the last 10 years. But it's become something which people are really starting to get concerned about, the chopping down of and the use of the tropical rainforests. Was I thinking about the sustainability of that timber that I was buying? Yes, it probably crossed my mind. Was I asking the two companies locally in the Midlands where I was buying that timber from? Was I asking them about the sustainability of that timber? Probably not. You've got a job to do. You're keen that whilst you're going and picking up some timber in your vehicle, you're not back in the workshop manufacturing. It's kind of lost time. I am absolutely all for, and I would encourage anybody to repurpose and recycle or upcycle, as sometimes it's described. My parents commissioned me to design and make them a complete kitchen of base cabinets, worktops and top cabinets, and I made it in English oak. And about 10 years later, they moved house. So the guy decided that he was going to remove this kitchen that I'd made for my mum and dad, and he rang my dad and asked my dad if my dad would ask me if I would like to have this kitchen given back to me. But 10 years later, when I acquired the kitchen, it was yellowy looking and tired looking. What I decided to do was, when I upcycled it and put it in my own new kitchen room, I decided I was going to sort of spray it a cream colour. But what that meant was I had to sand everything back to the bare wood before I could re-primer it and then spray it a cream colour. I've put hundreds and hundreds of hours work into upcycling this kitchen, and I'm really a fan, a massive fan of upcycling things, because whilst ever you're upcycling something that's made of wood, you're not chopping down trees in order to remake the product.
It is very apparent that there are individuals out there that really do care about the sustainability of wood, and if the general public just did the smallest bit to help out, such as selling or donating their unwanted furniture, extending the product life cycle, then maybe the problems might reduce.